クラスこんにちは。私は徳川家康だ。
I'm Kayla.
I'm Amina.
And this is Japan's changes and transformations into an industrialized nation.
Yay!
楽しむ。
Today, Japan is an astounding nation. Did you know that Japan's unemployment rate is less than 4%? Japan's literacy rate is almost 100%. Also in Japan, sometimes the trains are so crowded, railway staff are employed to cram passengers inside. Faced with European and American demands for more open trade, Japan underwent industrialization. In the first half of the 19th century, the Tokugawa shogunate continued to combine a central bureaucracy with alliances with feudal magnates in the countryside. The government was often short of funds due to limited income from taxes on the agrarian economy and payments made to feudal lords for their loyalty. Shortages of income led to reform movements which weakened the shogunate and made it vulnerable to external threats. Even though the shogunate was weakening, the political alliance between the bureaucracy and samurai worked very well. Several strains of intellectual pursuit developed. The National School emphasized essentially Japanese culture, while the Dutch Study School represented Japanese attempts to keep abreast of Western science and technology. The Japanese economy expanded on the basis of commercial growth. Manufacturing began to grow, even in the countryside. Economic growth slowed by the middle of the 19th century, producing some real protests and further weakening the shogunate. Matthew Perry was a Commodore of the U.S. Navy. He led a naval expedition to Japan, and when he arrived, he demanded that Japan be open to trade. He signed a treaty in 1853, opening up trade relations between the United States and Japan. By 1856, bowing to military pressure, Japan was forced to receive Western consols and to open ports to trade. The Meiji government abolished feudalism and replaced the daimyo states with regional prefectures. The government sent samurai to study political institutions and economic organization. Foreign observations were used to restructure the state. In order to improve their fiscal situation, the new government abolished payments to the samurai in return for grants of government bonds. Conscription provided a new army. And unfortunately, some samurai fell into poverty. Others found avenues of employment in the government and business. In 1884, the government created a new nobility. Civil service examens were utilized to open the bureaucracy to men of talent. The new constitution, issued in 1889, recognized the supremacy of the emperor, but gave limited powers to an elected lower house of representatives. New constitution was based on German models. The form of government gave great authority to wealthy businessmen and nobles who could influence the emperor and the diet. Political parties developed, but a small oligarchy continued to dominate the government into the 20th century. It eventually ended the power of the Tokugawa shogun and returned the emperor to a central position in Japanese politics and culture. The Meiji Emperor served as the figurehead for the movement. The new government imposed military reforms to modernize Japan's army and slowly ease into industrialization. An internal infrastructure was created. Guilds and internal tariffs were abolished, and a clear title to land was granted to individuals. Japan established the Ministry of Industry in 1870 to oversee economic development. Government built model factories to provide experience with new technology. Education was extended as a means of a developing workforce. By the 1890s, industrial combines served to accumulate capital for major investments. Japan continued to depend on the importation of equipment and raw materials from the West. Rapid growth depended on the existence of cheap supply of labor, often drawn from poorly paid women. Social change led to rapid population growth, which would be a positive effect. The Russo-Japanese War developed out of the rivalry between Russia and Japan for dominance in Korea and Manchuria. Japan launches a surprise naval attack against Port Arthur, a Russian naval base in China. The Russian fleet was decimated. During the subsequent Russo-Japanese War, Japan won a series of decisive victories over the Russians, who underestimated the military potential of its non-Western opponents. These major defeats convinced Russia that any further battles against Japan was hopeless. And in August 1905, U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt mediated a peace treaty at Portsmouth. Japan emerged from the conflict as the first modern, non-Western world power and set its sights on greater imperial expansion. No doubt Japan is rich in many things. They dominate the media. Animated Japanese films and television shows account for 60% of the world's animation-based entertainment. They keep a lot of their old traditions, and Japan has a rich history to go along with it.